Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to be taking a little bit of a look at the first ever Dragapult card. We've had a new little mini set released, or at least revealed over in Japan. That means a bunch of Sword and Shield cards that haven't got a card yet, or Pokemon that haven't got a card yet, are getting their first ever card, and that makes me very happy. Who doesn't like Dragapult? Now, one thing we need to mention right off the bat, it's a psychic Pokemon. We've still not seen any dragon Pokemon. And we know that Dragapult V is coming. And we know that Dragapult V is going to be psychic. Now, this Dragapult is psychic, and we've still not seen any dragon Pokemon. I think it might be time to seriously consider the fact that dragon Pokemon aren't coming back. I might have to do a follow-up video here because the evidence is mounting and changing. But anyway, this Dragapult's really good, so let's focus on the positives. 150 HP, honestly, it's kind of standard, except it's not kind of standard because the equivalent of Dragapult in Gen 1 was Dragonite, who back in the Sun and Moon base set at 160. Only getting 150 kind of feels like he's being a bit hard done by. You do, however, have Free Retreat. Free Retreat is awesome. You are weak to Darkness here, which honestly is fine. Zoroark rotated out. And sure, there are plenty of good Darkness decks in Expanded, but in Standard at the moment, it's not a big type. And you have a resistance to fighting. And fighting itself isn't huge right now, but there's lots of fighting weak stuff like Morpeko, so I don't know. Maybe it's a nice resistance to have. I mean, having a resistance generally is usually pretty good, so there's an awful lot of stuff to like about this. The basics are looking really nice. In terms of hitting for weakness, you're hitting for weakness on Mewtwo and Mew, and that's going to be extremely relevant. We'll get there in a moment. And now we know that Psychic Pokemon are actually going to a Darkness weakness. Have a look at Indeedee V as an example. But you get all the old Psychic Pokemon, plus all the fighting Pokemon that were fighting in the game, not ones that were ground or any of that. So, yeah, the basics here are awesome. Not to mention you got Malamar to accelerate energy and Spell Tag to do a little bit of extra damage. It's looking good. And it really is looking good, because we've got a phenomenal ability here. When this Pokemon takes damage, flip a coin. If heads, this Pokemon doesn't take that damage. Yeah, it's literally got Whimsicott's ability. I should mention our translation comes from lovely Joe over at Cerebi.net. This is Whimsicott's ability. Every time your opponent wants to attack you, they have to flip a coin. If tails, nothing is done. But it's actually better than Whimsicott's ability. Because you see, Whimsicott has an ability and it's a GX. Which means your opponent can use Power Plant and turn it off. It means your opponent can use the Mimikyu from Cosmic Eclipse, and as long as you're damaged, you lose that ability. Whereas Dragapult, it's a non-GX Pokemon. The only way to turn off abilities of non-GX Pokemon is to put a Slacking in the active. And then, of course, your opponent's got a Slacking in the active. Yeah. This is a really nice ability, and there's no real great way around it. Now, generally speaking, if it is worded like Whimsicott, which we assume it will be, it is if any damage is done to this Pokemon by attacks. That is to say that any damage counters dropped will not, unfortunately, be blocked. It has to be actual damage being done. But most of the good Pokemon at the moment are doing damage. And you've literally got immunity 50% of the time. And when you've got immunity 50% of the time, that changes everything. Okay, fine. You have only got 150 HP, and we'd like it to be slightly more. But then again, you're only really getting hit every other time your opponent attacks. So who really cares? We'll have a look at the attack in a minute. It does a decent amount of damage, but not quite as much as we might like. but you're only getting hit every other time, so who really cares? And bearing in mind, this is assuming your opponent gets a one-hit KO. If your opponent just wants to do a little bit of damage, if they're trying to two-hit KO, that two-hit KO should kind of turn into a four-hit KO. It's going to be very difficult. Now, quick side note here, will not work. The next time you flip any number of coins for the effect of an attack ability or trainer card this turn, choose heads or tails for the first coin flip. You play will on your turn, you're flipping on your opponent's turn. Unfortunately, you cannot use will to manipulate the coins. Never mind, we'll get over it. You're immune half the time, it's a phenomenal ability. But we do need to have an attack as well, and the attack's kind of cool. 120 damage for 2 psychic energy. Place 3 damage counters on your opponent's bench Pokemon in any way that you like. That is quite good for very little energy. Now look, 120 is not what we're looking for, right? 120 is not what we're looking for. It's not a huge amount of damage. It's not even enough to get a one-hit KO on a Mewtwo and Mew. Although worth pointing out, if you can place 3 damage counters on one with this attack, then when you do hit it for 240, including weakness, you will then get the KO. But you have to drop 3 damage counters. And dropping 3 damage counters can be really good. I mean, maybe your opponent's got a Magikarp on the bench and you just KO it. But what you can also do is spread it around, bring things into damage range. And there's 2 great things about dropping 3 damage counters rather than just doing 30 damage. First of all, it goes through Mew. Mew protects your opponent's bench Pokemon from damage. This isn't damage, it's damage counters. You'll go right through. Secondly, you can put them anywhere you like. It doesn't all have to be on one Pokemon. You could put all 3 on one, or you could put 2 on one, 1 on another, or you could just put 1 on 3 different Pokemon. The choice is yours. And this is really nice. Again, I'm not enamored by the 120. You're even going to come across a whole bunch of non-GX, single prize Pokemon like Hooper sitting there with 130, and you're not going to be getting a KO. And actually, Hooper has a resistance, so you're not even getting a KO. Yeah. There's going to be too many non-GXs you don't get a KO on here. There's going to be a bunch of stuff you're not 2-hit KOing. Now, this is the point where we become really happy that Zacian lost its Psychic resistance. So, because Metal Pokemon were resistant to Psychic, they're not anymore. So now at least you are 2-hit KOing that. But remember, you've always got the damage counters to drop. Even something like a Hooper, after resistance, you're doing 100 damage, but when you build in the fact that you're dropping 3 damage counters, yeah, that'll do. That'll get the KO. But it's only 2 psychic energy. You can have a single Malamar on the bench, and that's all you're going to need to get up and rolling here. Or, this is actually a candidate for Beedee. Beedee is a new supporter card that came out in Sword and Shield that lets you attach a basic energy to one of your bench Pokemon. Awesome. You only need to accelerate 1 energy here. And Beedee will accelerate any kind of energy, so that'll do. And this is where it all starts to come together. The attack is fine. 120 plus dropping 3 damage counters is all right. It's not a phenomenal attack, but it's pretty good. But then you build in the ability that half the time means it's not getting hit. Then you build in the free retreat, the pretty good weakness, and the resistance, and the fact that the attack is actually quite easy to pay, and all of a sudden, Dragapult goes from, why does it have a slightly underpowered attack, to, hang on a second, we can really make use of this. I can't tell you that this is going to be an amazing card that is going to be played in every deck. I cannot tell you that it's going to be the absolute top of the metagame. What I can tell you is that it is a very good card that a lot of people are going to be testing, and it's one we need to take a little bit seriously. So I'm giving it between 3 and 4 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies. That would be barbaric. If you pushed me, I'd put it closer to 4 Wassies than 3. But maybe that's just me. I would, however, very much like to know what you think about this, and how good you think it is, and how much you're looking forward to testing it. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts. Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/TheWassie. patreon.com/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassiePlays, where you can find out about a whole bunch of games that don't have Pokemon in, but are still very awesome. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.